Hello, could you state your name, please?
Cindy Poor Pariso. I'm a coordinator of disability services and I specialize in assistive technology.
Well, you just answered my next question. Very nice. Now, what do you know about autism?
Okay, so if I can go way to the beginning, when I started here in 2001, I had no knowledge. And about a year after I started, we had our first student who was on the autism spectrum. He had Asperger's syndrome. So at that point, there was just one student who identified himself as needing services. So we had to go and investigate, and what we really had to look into and learn about the autism spectrum. So I know that there are people with a whole range of abilities, from nonverbal to high intelligence. Not that nonverbal people can't be high intelligence, but there's a whole range of development along the spectrum. And the students that we see here most on campus on the autism spectrum are those with Asperger's syndrome. And what we've learned about Asperger's syndrome is that there's really no one definition, but there are some things that we kind of expect and try to work with students and work with their instructors for students that are on the autism spectrum or that have Asperger's. And things like not always being able to identify social cues, sometimes changes like a change in classroom or a change of class time or a change of instructor can be very difficult because some students with Asperger's like to have repetition. It's very comfortable.
It's a very common aspect.
Right, and often things are taken literally, so we have to be very careful when we utilize sayings like it's water over the bridge or don't cry over spilled milk, because sometimes those things can be taken literally. So we really want to be precise with our language. Many times they excel greatly or more so in one specialized area.
You mean like a 7?
Mm-hmm. And not even always that. It doesn't always go to the level of being a savant, but just an intense interest, collecting things and being keyed in on one particular thing. They are just as capable, if not more so, than any non-disabled student academically. But a lot of times the socialization that's involved in the college environment is very difficult.
Now, you were saying about a minute or two ago that when you started working here, there were only one, and now there are several. How do you think the college has grown to be more accommodating towards students with such disability?
It's been a learning process for everybody. So the more students we have, the more comfortable we are, not only in this office but in the classroom. But in society in general, there's been such a growth, or not necessarily a growth in the number of people with Asperger's, but a growth in the identification of people with Asperger's. And because it's identified earlier, more are able to come to college. So we've seen so many that it's no longer an enigma. It's no longer as difficult to accommodate as it used to be, because there's a wider spread understanding of what autism is, the fact that somebody on the autism spectrum is certainly capable of attending and excelling in classes. The difficult piece for us as a college community is sometimes what happens outside of the classroom because of the social aspects. Many times in high school, students on the autism spectrum have an individual coach who can help them work through the social aspects where we don't have that here, and sometimes those the misunderstanding of social cues can cause difficulties. But I think we're working through those. And we have a greater understanding of why someone on the autism spectrum may not quickly identify what proper social cues are, and then we help them grow the best we can.
Changing the world learner by learner.
By learner, yeah.
And I understand now that you have developed some assistive technology over the past, only like 14 years then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Would you like to share some of that?
Sure. And the assistive technology is for the whole range of students with disabilities.
Right.
And not necessarily just for students on the autism spectrum. But I have what I call my box of goodies, and it's low-tech assistive technology. So
Right.
high-tech assistive technology would be like software, special mice,
You mean like tracking balls?
tracking balls, yeah, things like that. But the lower tech things are things like noise canceling headphones,
Right.
and that's for anybody who's easily distracted. But I also know that some people on the autism spectrum have integration issues, like certain sounds they can't tolerate.
I can pause if you want.